Hey everybody, welcome back again for another installment of the Twin Peaks series reviews, and we're going to deal with episode 3 today. And before I start, I'd just like to say thank you to a new subscriber, Chipmonkey on Minds. I think it's Monkey Chips on YouTube, for leaving a comment and some suggestions about how I could work on improving things a bit. You know, what do you know? Someone actually takes the time to respond, and I'm ready to take their suggestions into consideration. And lo and behold, here I go. I got a cheat sheet and a list of the breakdown of the episode in orders to keep me on track. Imagine that. See how easy that works, folks? Definitely encourage communication, and yeah, so keep on giving suggestions, and I'll try to polish it and make things better as we go on, because like I said, I'm planning on doing, I don't know how many different television shows. I mean, we're probably talking over the long haul, hundreds of episodes covered, because I've got a lot of TV shows that I have yet to see and that I have seen, like The Wire. I haven't watched The Wire. I heard it was really good, and I will be tackling that, in the future. And I haven't watched all of Breaking Bad either, just the first season, so I'll be probably doing that too. And I'll be doing it fresh as I see it, so that'll actually be very helpful, I think, to get into those real initial impressions, as opposed to with Twin Peaks. I've watched them so much, so they're not all that fresh anymore. But anyway, let's not dilly-dally anymore. Let's get on with the show. Episode 3. The mystery continues. So we start off at the Horns. I believe they live at the Great Northern. Brother Jerry, Ben's brother, arrives. And if you think you've spotted this vertically challenged actor before, he actually played Sully in the Arnold Schwarzenegger film Commando. Remember the guy that he told him he was going to kill him last and dropped him off? Gave him a nice drop off of the side of the cliff? It's the same guy. And like his brother, he's a bit of a dick. And remember that Audrey mentioned that her brother Johnny is 27 and in the 3rd grade, so he might be autistic. So yeah, him wearing the big Indian chief headdress is just part of the daily routine. So seems strange, but it fits the character. Ben and Jerry, I don't know if that does I don't know if it was supposed to be a joke about the ice cream or not, but yeah, Ben and Jerry. Ben tells them about the Ghostwood Project fallout, and Norwegians did not sign, and he mentions Laura's death. Jerry was out of the country, allegedly in France, and remember, his name starts with J, so we have that connection with the diary, but if we're going to believe his story, we can scratch him off the suspect list. We jump back to the Haywards, and it looks like they're finishing up dessert, so I'm assuming it was taking place the same time as when James came over for dinner the previous evening, or in the previous episode that evening, so not much time has passed. Yeah, we have a new location mentioned, One-Eyed Jack's, and apparently not just a reference to a certain part of the male anatomy, but is actually a casino and brothel just over the Canadian side of the border. And check out that chick that greets them on the dock. Oh my, big uns to say the least. Very nice, very nice. And once again, Jerry shows that he's a condescending prick when he orders his drinks. And we're introduced to a new character, and that being Blackie, who is the brothel's madam, and apparently knows Ben quite well. Ben tries to wax poetical, and Jerry interrupts in typical fashion. And we see that previously mentioned there is a new girl here, because this is a brothel, and so you can see the talent on display, so to speak. And this new girl was fresh from the perfume counter. Remember that. Remember that Ronette Pulaski worked at the perfume counter at Horn's department store, according to her parents when they were interviewed. So we can assume that One-Eye Jacks is hiring high school girls to work as escorts in some degree. And remember that Laura and Ronette had some kind of connection behind the scenes that we are establishing. So to beg the question, which I should say actually it begs the question, was Laura ever at this establishment? That's a question we have yet to answer. We jump over to James and Donna again, doing the lovey-dovey thing. That, this sort of thing's not really my cup of tea, so... but it does represent them as being kind of the representing the innocence and naivete of small town kids, and amidst all the tragedy that's going on, they're kind of a bright light. They think they found true love, and they're kind of a bright spot in a way amongst all the turmoil. Dale goes back to his room at the Great Northern and gets a call from Deputy Hawk. And we get mentioned of the one-armed man we saw in the last episode that eluded Hawk when he was at the morgue. And then a notice slipped under the door of Dale's room. But of course, when he opens the door, nobody is to be seen. However, we do see that there is a scent or perfume on the note. That's what Dale was smelling. And by the look on his face, he appears to recognize who that scent belongs to. All right, and moving on to the meetup with Bobby and Mike with Leo, who has been dealing drugs with them. Leo's not too happy that they don't have the money, and Leo's not a happy person to begin with. And he's also carrying a shotgun. So yeah, Mike and Bobby are not in a good spot. This is one scene that I don't know if it always kind of irked me. There is someone else there with Leo, kind of off hiding behind a tree. It's wearing a ski mask. That Leo doesn't seem to be, that he seems to be cognizant of that person is there. It's not like he looks around and sees that somebody that he's not sure why he's being followed. But unfortunately, I don't know if it ever. I mean, I have a theory of who it is, and I'll talk about that in an episode when it becomes relevant. But other than that, they never really say who this guy is, and I don't know if it's that. It is kind of remains a mystery unless you draw a connection. But the connection really doesn't make any sense. But I'll talk about that later. Yeah, and remember that line Leo says Leo needs a new pair of shoes. Keep that in mind. The reference will play a part later. Also, Leo hints that Shelley is possibly, at least to his mind, is sleeping around with somebody behind his back when he's gone, and we know who that is. But he doesn't give Bobby any indication that he's aware of the identity of the person. I mean, at least that's what he's saying. Maybe he's playing him for a fool. It's hard to say. We hop over to the Hurleys. Ed had an accident working on a vehicle and gets some, get some grease on those cotton balls that Nadine went to buy, and that pisses her off to no end. And then we also find out that Nadine apparently possesses freakish levels of strength. She, just annihilates or mangles this piece of exercise equipment she's on. We hop over to Dale and the crew from the sheriff's department, setting up some kind of, experiment or something. Bobby shows up in a scene following that, finds out that Leo's been hitting Shelley. Obviously, he's pretty pissed off about that. Ed pays Norma a visit at the Double R. So neither of those two scenes are, all that important, really. So yeah, let's jump back to Dale and crew, or Dale and friends, as I like to refer to them. Lots of coffee and donuts. They love them those coffee. That damn fine black coffee and plenty of donuts. I can't say I would blame them. I'd be eating donuts like that too if I wouldn't gain 1,000 pounds. And they're apparently they're going to indulge Dale's kind of unique method for narrowing down this list of people whose names start with the letter J or J in them. Apparently, once upon a time, Dale had a dream about the Tibetan people and the Dalai Lama, who were at some point began to be persecuted by the communist Chinese, and the Dalai Lama had to flee. And apparently, through this dream, it unlocked some subconscious dream, skill or intuition that allows him to, gives him some kind of ability of deductive reasoning or a deductive technique of some sort. That's, we've got some little this kind of mysterious, the supernatural playing out right here with this scene in particular. At least his ability, his intuition. Like you said, Laura's diary mentioned nervous about meeting Jay tonight. So we're going to go down the list and see who we can find when he breaks that bottle. Well, Dr. Jacoby, whose bottle didn't break, and Leo Johnson, whose bottle did break, are now on our list for people of interest. Remember that Dr. Jacoby has the necklace, or at least the half of the necklace, and he does have Laura's recordings that were sent, and Leo has apparently misplaced, so Shelley's hidden the shirt that was covered in blood. Both are potentially damning evidence for each of these. And on a side note, in relation to Dale's dream, the episode is actually titled Zen or the Skill to Catch a Killer. So, very appropriate. At the Double R, Donna and Audrey have a little conversation. Audrey continues to hint that she's infatuated with Dale, and mentions, or at least asks if Laura ever mentioned her father, Ben Horn, mentioning Laura. And she reveals that he used to sing to her. So now we've established a vague connection between Laura Palmer and Ben Horn, at least in that regard. Back at the sheriff's office, we see some more evidence that Deputy Hawk was able to procure. And in comes Albert Rosenfield, the expert ace pathologist, coroner, what would you call it? God, I'm trying to think of the term. Forensics expert. There we go. He's one of my favorite characters. He's hilarious. His attitude is great, and he, like all the characters, he goes through his own transition, and the back and forth with Sheriff Truman is great. They have great chemistry together. Welcome to Amateur Hour. I think that says it all. Ed returns home after going to the Double R, and apparently the grease gun and the grease that got on those cotton balls kind of solved all of Nadine's drape runner issues, and now she's got a perfectly silent drape runner. And apparently she thinks that's going to translate into a hell of a lot of dinero. At the Martells, Pete gives Josie a key to the safe that holds not one, but two ledgers that pertain to the current financial situation regarding the Packard sawmill. And remember, Ben and Catherine in the previous episode were talking about that the mill was going bankrupt. So we have one ledger that's real, and we have one that's fake that shows it turning a profit. At the Palmers, Leland is trying to drown his grief by listening to old records. He's very distraught, and he mentions it, talks about when he needs to dance with Sarah for Laura. So he's very distraught and hit very hard by his daughter's death. All right, and now we get to the good stuff. And welcome to the Black Lodge. One of the coolest concepts and ideas that have ever been on television drama, as far as I'm concerned. I love the concept of the Black Lodge. It's multidimensional, and you can make a whole video talking about it and theories about it. As Dale drifts off to sleep, we see that staircase shot again. I told you it was going to show up multiple times. And we also see that mystery man that Sarah saw in her vision when she was with Donna. That was crouching down by the bed. And lo and behold, there's the one-armed man that Hawk was looking for. And he talks to us in a very cryptic way, and mentions something about being touched by the devilish one, and he got a tattoo on his arm. but later he says he removed the entire arm when he saw the face of God. So perhaps he's mentioning that finding some kind of redemption for something. Apparently there's a connection between him and Bob, who is the character that Sarah saw. Very dark and sinister, very creepy. He talks about he's going to kill again, and he's going to catch you in his death bag. So it's a pretty cool character. So they have some kind of connection. And also there is a coincidence. We've got a Mike and Bob in the dream, and we've got Mike and Bobby in real life. Is there anything to that? We'll find out. So yeah, basically anything to do with the Black Lodge ranks as one of my favorite scenes. So, and I'll give just the rundown on the Black Lodge part before I wrap everything up. We see Dale, and he's looking quite a bit older. So is this event taking place in the future, or is it just a different aspect of his dream that has something to do or pertains to something else? We see the midget in the red suit that he talks in a very strange manner, and then we have a woman that looks like Laura Palmer that's sitting on a sofa or a chair by him. The way that people talk in the Black Lodge was actually devised by that actor. I believe his name's Michael Anderson, that plays the arm. And it's not like where you'd, normally when people do like the backwards voice, they'd say something and play it backwards, and you get that kind of weird, goofy-ish thing. Well, basically, what he would do is phonetically pronounce the word backwards, and then the tape would be played in the opposite, so that it would sound like it would sound like a weird version of how you would actually say it. And he had to teach this to some of the other actors to do. It's on like an extras with the DVD and stuff. I'm sure you could probably find it on YouTube. And this part is just chock full of clues. I mean, there's so much going on. I don't want to just go into each of them, but just if you need to, like I said, there's so much going on. Don't hesitate to revisit this scene, in the future if you don't remember everything, and if you need a kind of a refresher, because there's a ton of clues going on here. It's a major scene. But notice it also that Dale is the only one that talks normally. And I think this is just to indicate that we are in his subconscious, because you remember when people dream, everything is kind of a bit off and it's kind of weird. And normally I'm not a big fan of jazz, but I really like this track. I don't know, it always just stuck with me. I like this type of jazz, I guess you could say. And then at the end, we have the Elora doppelganger, since we say she thinks she knows who Laura is, so we're assuming that is it the real Laura, or is it a doppelganger? It's hard to say. She walks up to Dale and kisses him, and then whispers something in his ear, and the dream ends. Then Dale wakes up and calls Sheriff Truman and tells him he knows who killed her. And I'll go out on a limb and say that's probably not as cut and dry as that. But it's interesting, and like I said, that's a great cliffhanger to set us up for the next episode. What did she tell Dale? And can you imagine being Sheriff Truman? Someone, oh yeah, I can wait till tomorrow. I know who killed her. It's like, yeah. So, but overall, it's a great episode. It's one of my favorites. Like I said, it lays out a ton of good stuff. Some new reveals. We get some information on two mysterious characters, that being Mike and Bob. If they're in the same dream, and Bob is referencing Mike, what kind of connection do they have? And remember, we've seen Mike in person, in the flesh, by Hawk at the hospital, but Bob was only seen in Sarah's vision at that time, or apparently what it was, something that she saw. So is he walking around in Twin Peaks? Is he hiding out somewhere? Hard to say. We'll find out a little bit more, hopefully, in episode 4, which I should have out in a couple days. So until then, everybody, take care. Like, comment, and subscribe. And hopefully, Mr. Monkey Chips Chipmunky, this was a little bit better organized and not as chaotic as the first episode. Let me know in the comments. Until next time, everybody, take care.